Welcome back to Heard Tell. Okay, let's talk some local stuff. We talk about that a lot because it's important stuff. But how does it get covered? Let's talk to one of our friends. He's been on the program before. He does local coverage and local reporting. Adam Bass. You know him as Adam Bass and Mass with that clever Twitter handle. He's a reporter with the North Star Reporter. He's also a contributor to WBSM up there in Massachusetts. How are you, sir? Good to see you again.
Good to be here again, Andrew, and thank you for having me on the show.
Always happy to have you. All right, here's the thing. I've been talking about it. I've wrote a couple pieces about it. I bring it up on this program. People just don't pay enough attention to local stuff right now, especially the legislative process, especially city, municipal, county commission, city council, whichever one you may have, depending on where you live. I thought it would be instructive to actually talk to somebody who covers this all the time, which you do. Media has gotten nationalized. There's just no debate about that. It has. Local media is struggling. It's trying to find its niche. I think a lot of local media is starting to figure out this print media, modern media thing, but it ain't quite there yet. You cover it. What is it the difference? Because you've done both. What's the difference when you're covering local news as far as getting it to the community where it matters the most?
Well, see, the important thing, Andrew, is that you have to understand who benefits from reading the news, and that's going to be everybody in that community. And basically, what you're trying to do when you're finding an audience when reporting local news is that you want to keep it close to what matters in the community. So, for example, in North Attleboro, one of the communities I cover, one big thing that's going on there is housing. There's this huge housing project going up, or being planned, excuse me, called a 40R project, and that's a mixed use project. Now, some people are very excited about that because, Massachusetts has a housing crisis, but other people not as excited because they feel as if it's going to bring in too many people, it's going to cause traffic problems. And really, it's sort of like creating what I like to call the spider web model. So a spider web has a center, a nucleus, and then you have all the little things coming out of it. So different people in different areas. So maybe on one ring, it's the legislatures or the town councilmen talk about the 40R project. Some who agree, some who disagree. Then it's going to be the businesses who benefit from it, and then it's going to be the people who benefit from it or don't like it. Everyone plays a part in local news. It's not just single people like a president or a Joe Manchin who's calling all the shots. It's everybody. Everyone has a role, and you need to find out who those roles are and who those power players are. That way, you can deliver it to an audience who can understand. Okay, how does it affect me? Why do I care? Why should I care?
This is a good example, Adam Bass and Mass. Let's take housing for a second because that's a very popular social media debate. It's a popular pundit debate. I cover it on this show a lot because it is important. There is a high housing crisis. There is a lot of things that go into housing that go into things like economics and politics. But that's the perfect example of where local reporting can really come into because the national narratives, YIMBY versus NIMBYs. Yes, in my backyard, no, in my backyard. If you're against affordable housing, you're, bad people. If you're not for it, blah, 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 blah. The problem is locally, there's legitimate reasons why you might not want a particular project in a particular place that doesn't fit that national narrative, but there's local concerns that are very unique. And those people may not be against, affordable housing or whatever it is at all. It just may be that specific project, that specific location. They know the people that are behind it. They may know the actual developers that are behind it.
Right.
Or the reverse is true. They don't know the developers because they're out of town developers and they got questions about them. Those are all legitimate issues. They don't fit the national narrative, but that's where the local reporting and the local flavor give the context you need to find out what the actual events and what it means is, right?
Right. Here's the thing. I'll give you actually a perfect example of this. So one of the town councilors I cover, he said he's not against affordable housing. He likes affordable housing, but he didn't vote for the 40R project because his belief is that the better way for the town to grow is through industrial buildings. So buildings that bring in industry, such as your Amazon. So things that make things, which is industry. Now, the town manager says, okay, I agree with that, but I also think that housing brings a little more growth. So, as you said, Andrew, one of the things that's very true, especially on social media and nationalized news, it's very black and white. But, it's like, oh, you can build a railroad easily. It's like, no, you can't really because you got to look at the land, you got to look at all the places, or housing. For example, developers may want to build affordable housing, but one of the big problems is that it doesn't bring a lot of money for them. Building 3-4 apartment housing, that brings a lot of money for them because the people who come in have that money to spend. So how am I going to make money? As let's say I'm a developer, how am I going to make money? I got to make a free 4-bedroom apartment. Now, the town manager in North Attleboro is trying his best to make sure that there's a way to make money for those developers in making more what he calls holistic housing. But obviously, it's still a process. There's no end to the crisis of housing or any other crisis. And there's going to be different people talking about why it's an issue for them, whether it be those who do not have a home or those who have a home and may say, well, wait a minute, is this the right place to do it? Now, me personally, I'm just covering this. My job as a reporter is not to give opinions. It's to give information and let other people decide those opinions, because we've sort of lost our way as reporters, or just giving their opinions. It's not the Adam Bass show. It's the North Attleboro show narrated by Adam Bass. That's the reality.
Yeah, Adam Bass joining us. All right, take us inside of one of these meetings, city council,
Yeah, let's do
something
this.
like this. Because people, look, there's been a thing. I've always been an advocate of, like, if you don't go to a meeting at least once or twice, to at least familiarize yourself with them. Look, Robert's Rules of Order is its own separate language. I understand there's a lot of minutia, a lot of it's boring, a lot of it's just procedural stuff. For somebody that's never been to a city council or a county commission meeting, if you live rurally, whatever your governing body is, the first timer walking in, and give them a little bit of a survival guide. What should they be looking at? What should they be listening for besides the procedure and the nomenclature and all the boring stuff? What are they actually paying attention to? Because really, how those council members or county commission members are conducting themselves are almost as important as whatever the actual things being discussed, as far as who actually knows what they're doing or not, right?
Right. So here's something I would actually recommend doing, especially for those who want to go to a city council or a county commission meeting. First of all, before you do anything, say hello to the city councilors, okay? They are willing to say hello. They love chatting you up. They love talking to people. They love they love talking, and really helping to understand who they are really gets a good example of how things are going to go down in the meeting. Now, when that meeting happens, pay attention to who talks in the meeting, not just the city council president who's conducting the meeting. Look who's bringing motions to the table. Look who's deciding to let their voices be heard, and really who kind of agrees with somebody on the city council, like who becomes like best friends in their giving of motions, or who butts heads. I remember there was one motion for a new bridge to be built in New Bedford, and one of the council members said, well, I want a special session to hold off and let's just review everything, because I don't think we've been giving enough time. Another counselor agreed with him, and he was sitting right next to him. They were chatting it up, and I realized, okay, they've known each other for a long time, and they probably agree with one another. And then you have another city councilor, a newer city councilor, relatively young. He said, look, we had this opportunity to build this bridge, and the MBTA, which is the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority, which is basically where the trains go in Massachusetts, we have this. They're paying for us. They're footing the bill. The city doesn't have to pay anything. So let's do this. And it passed. The bill that allowed the city to have the bridge passed. And then when you're done with that, go talk to the councilors. Ask them simple questions. It doesn't matter if you're not a reporter. You can ask questions. Ask simple questions when you're going there. There's an old saying, I'm Jewish, and there's an old saying, every Passover, be the children who ask the questions, right? If you ask questions, you're going to come out smarter. You're not going to go in dumber. You're smarter that you're coming in with questions.
Adam Bass and Mass. Hey, this brings up another thing, though. Somewhere like Massachusetts, this is, again, same song, second dance. The national narrative doesn't fit always in local politics. Massachusetts, very blue state, very liberal state, very progressive state. This is all known. But the thing about these local issues is people want to ride in and start slapping, the partisan national narratives on it. It just doesn't work that way in local politics. It's not that
Oh,
there isn't partisanship and there isn't, the party line and things like that. It's just it's a total different tenor and a different pace. And especially somewhere where you have a little bit more, super majorities on a lot of stuff, things are dealt with differently. And that partisan horse race narrative stuff doesn't really fit the local politics, does it?
no. Well, we got to remember one of the things that's true about Massachusetts is that we don't have that many competitive elections. The GOP here, they don't really try that hard, and they're going through a bit of a crisis management right now. And the Democrats, it's sort of like becoming a Republican. It's sort of what Jim Justice did. You're switching that D to an R or R to a D. It's a chance of survival. Um, and the reality is that in local races, it's not a partisan thing. Obviously there might be some who lean more a little left to the right, but at the end of the day, they're still good friends. I'll give you a great story. I was covering an election for City Council, Ward 3, City Councilor in New Bedford. And you had one candidate who was like an outwardly Republican, but everyone else was just them. When the results were called in, the top two rivals, they were so happy for each other. They were hugging, they were cheering, and all the candidates were cheering. And they said, we lost, but you know what? Good for them. And they're excited to run against each other. They're really, really excited. And I think that's missing from our from our national politics. I'm not calling for everyone to be like nonpartisan. I'm calling for people to realize that it's not as black and white. Politics it's not even shades of gray. It's so many different colors and so many things that make different people tick. And you have to really understand that when covering politics and understanding politics. It's not this red versus blue. It's red, blue, yellow, green, beige, chartreuse, turquoise, magenta. All these different people with all these different combinations. It's going to affect how you think of politics when you look at it that way.
Yeah, it sure does. Adam Bass. All right, folks all over the country, look, there's still local media out there. Talk about for just a second, though, how they can follow it more and more. The local papers that have survived, if they're surviving, they figured out how to get online because either they did or they didn't survive. That's how that works. Local news stations, local TV stations, local PBS, a lot of them have really good reporters. There's now, a lot of nonprofit news organizations. Just walk people through if they want to follow their local news better, where to start. And is this one of those things kind of like natural, what I've done? You kind of got to go a la carte with your reporting sometimes. Find those good local. Look, I got my 4 or 5 guys that keep me up to date on all the West Virginia stuff. Talk about getting a rotation so that you're getting that local information outside that national market, because you're going to have to kind of do this yourself and curate it yourself, aren't you?
Right. So one thing I would recommend first, if anyone has social media, go first follow Report for America. This is a great nonprofit organization that has young reporters like myself go to different parts of the country and report at different local outlets. From there, you can find said local outlets. You can find local papers. You can find local television stations. And if you can't find them to begin with, the smaller ones, look a little bigger. Look at your equivalent of the Boston Globe. If your state has one, go look at your local television station, because you will find the network that they're building. Different reporters know all the people in the business. So, your local PBS affiliate might know where to find local outlets to read. And don't be afraid to contact them. Send them an email. That's what I did when I got started. I reached out to all these people at GBH News in Boston, at WBSM, where I currently contribute. And also listen to your local AM stations. You might find something that's not as partisan there. In Massachusetts and New Hampshire, there are plenty of AM stations that do lean a little right or left, but there are some that do tell straight news. And if you can find them, give them a listen.
Yeah, Adam Bass. He's a reporter from the North Star Reporter, contributor for WBSM. Also got a little podcast called The Cod Cabin. I'll let him explain that one to you. Let folks know what you got going on, how they can follow you, and how they can keep up with you till we get you back on the program again, my friend.
Sure. So you can follow me at thenorthstarreporter.com or WBSM when I'm posting articles there. Adam Bass of Mass of Twitter. That's Adam Bass of Mass. Or listen to our podcast, The Cod Cabin, where we talk about Massachusetts politics. It's a real blast.
It even rhymes, so you know it's got to
Ah,
be good, right? Like Adam Bass of Mass. That's his Twitter handle. Adam Bass, our good friend up there. Keep doing the good work of local reporting, my friend, and we'll talk soon.
take care.
Thank you, sir.